you join us for Normal for 2020, our business reaction series. My name's Tom Caulfield, partner in the agricultural team at Arnold's Keys. I've got my colleague with me, Mark Mayhew, fellow partner in our commercial team. Very pleased to say that we've got Carina Cobbold, partner of Mills Reeve, joining us today to tell us a little bit about what's been going on in light of the continual crisis and pandemic with COVID-19. Carina, thanks for joining us. I appreciate everybody knows Mills Reeve, but maybe could you just give us a little bit of an indication of sort of the areas of work that Mills Reeve typically get involved with?
Of course I can. So thank you for having me. Mills Reeve is what's known as a full service office, which for those who are not lawyers or working in that sphere, it means we cover all aspects of legal advice. So anything from developments for big commercial sites, mergers and acquisitions, immigration and employment work, insurance. You can come to us to talk about it. We work both with local clients and also we have a national presence. And what we try to do is ensure that we work across sectors, because I'm sure, like yourselves, there are certain developments which happen within certain practice areas, but equally and more relevant as time goes on, there's that focus on sectors, and we find that having deep sector expertise means that we're able just to provide much more pragmatic and time relevant and market sort of reactive advice to our clients. So that's really what we do in a nutshell.
Carina, you've got Mills Reeve, you've got offices throughout the UK, and if we take you sort of back to sort of the 23rd of March and Boris's decision to sort of lock down, had Mills Reeve sort of seen that coming? Were plans put in place? Were people working from home, or was it sort of slightly caught on the hop, or what was the sort of situation leading up to the 23rd of March?
Well, prior to the 23rd of March, we had already put steps in place with our business just as a reaction to the needs of both our clients and also the people who work at Mills Reeve. We had put in place a more agile workforce, so there was the opportunity for people to do some working from home, some blended working. But it's fair to say not all of our offices or personnel were set up to work completely and solely from home. Therefore, what happened, and this is absolute credit to our board, is we were probably one of the first law firms to have everyone that was able to work from home, and it took place in a number of steps. So the first thing that happened is we had to identify those people who needed to be in the office in order to continue to keep the offices running. And that's really our facilities team, certain support staffs like our administrative assistants who take the post, make sure things are pushed in the right direction, and some of our finance and IT team initially. But largely the rest of our workforce, considering we're nearly 1,000 people, they could work from home. So what happened in the first phase is we got as many people as possible working from home, either through laptops that they've already been issued with, or we have a system whereby you can log in from your own personal computer at home. So they go through our external server and can log in. So that was phase one, getting as many people as possible at home. The next phase was ensuring that if they needed additional equipment, they had that. So we work on two screens. I'm looking at you from my laptop, that's on the right-hand side of me. I've got a nice big screen. So the next phase was to identify that everyone had what they needed at home to work successfully. For lawyers, it's normally a double screen and sometimes it's a printer. For our lovely administrative assistants, EAs and our support staff, it could be headphones, it could be typing pedals, all of those things. They got shipped out from our respective offices. We had entire swathes of our IT teams setting up new laptops from their dining room tables and shipping them all around the country. And then the next phase, once we've got people up and working and comfortable, is we asked every employee to identify with a budget something that would make a personal difference to them, and the partners funded that for every employee. Wow. We then send out to every employee what are called work desk assessments, because of course we'd normally do them in the office, but people are sitting at home and we're conscious that they're not necessarily being assessed in situ. So everyone gets sent that. They all get to fill it in, and then we ship to people, if they needed them, different bits of equipment. So chairs, they've moved all around the country. People have got their chairs in their home offices. So I think DHL are very happy with us.
Happy, yes.
Yeah. And it just evolved really. Of course, the other really big thing is our use of technology. And historically, up until COVID, I think we'd all dabbled in Teams and Zoom, but it's fair to say we definitely weren't skilled in the use of it. So we did roll out a series of training for everyone across the business. And increasingly what it did mean is people needed headphones.
Yes.
So you're both wearing headphones.
Yep.
I'm not today, but there will be occasions, it's a great look, I know, where I will be seen with these.
Oh, you see.
So we all have them. Yeah. So we have to identify what different people need for their working practices. So they also, where needed, got sent out. So that was the start of it. I'm sure you're going to ask me about phased returns and things like that. And there were different challenges along the way with those.
Yes, indeed.
Wow, that's really quite a thorough sort of rollout and a level and things. And is that presumably, were these things that were sort of just if you like, thought of as the process went along, if you see what I mean, or was there a team working slightly in the background prior to the announcement? Because this all sounds, I'm hugely impressed in terms of everything that's been rolled out, you see, and I'm just curious to know whether is it something where there was a dedicated team were thinking, right, what do we need to tackle, and was that team in place, before we went into lockdown, or was that something that was quickly put together?
I think it's fair to say it was a mixture of the two, because I think what our firm is built on is trying to be resilient and adaptable. So what we had is we actually had our own sort of mini Cobra team every morning. And that was largely the board and also certain support heads. So they met every morning during the initial COVID pandemic, and they were reacting to the daily briefings that we were receiving from the Prime Minister and various aides to the government. And then alongside that, in each of our respective offices, yes, we did have sub-teams. So we've got facilities teams based in each of our offices. And what they did under our head of facilities is they would at all times, along with the IT support services, be doing assessments of what was needed depending upon what was coming out of the COBRA meetings and the government announcements each evening. So I think it would be fair to say that we had put some planning in place, and actually the steps we've taken over the last 12 to 18 months in terms of as a firm, we're quite dedicated to innovative and different ways of working, had certainly helped us. But it's really difficult, isn't it, to pre-plan in these circumstances, having all the best teams and working groups. It changes daily. So I think that the teams were there, but they had to learn to be very adaptable, and complete credit to our facilities and IT teams. I mean, I'm amazed at what they managed to achieve in 48 hours. Within a week, we had every single person who was able to work from home, working from home with full equipment. And I think if you'd have asked me that 18 months ago, would that be possible? I'd probably have said, I think it unlikely.
Unlikely.
Yes. I mean, but I don't know about yourselves. One of the biggest challenges is getting the equipment.
Yes.
I mean, tying down laptops and screens in that period of time, I think was a huge challenge for our IT teams. Yeah,
I mean, it's clear there's some positive there in terms of sort of, we've had it with some of our interviews in terms of the staff pulling together and actually, sort of all pulling together and coming together and sort of moving things forward. You've obviously got quite a good culture within Mills and Reeve to sort of, you're looking after people, you're engaging and communicating. I mean, obviously that's quite a big thing, and I appreciate obviously your staff, see that as a huge benefit.
They do. What I think helped us is that what the board did right at the start is they identified 7 key principles that they considered we had to always try and adhere to as a business to try and get us through what was to come, whether it was COVID or whatever's coming our way. And they did centre around being the well-being of our staff, our culture, being supportive, being innovative, being adaptable, having diverse and inclusive teams, but also always with an eye on making sure that our clients are at the heart of every decision we make, to make sure that we can still provide them advice. Because the lovely thing about the culture is the teams are really close, but they're really dedicated to their clients. So actually they sort of get part of their fulfillment from work in still being able to deliver. Just working out how we best delivered with all the challenges that came our way. I'd like to think we've done a great job. But you'd have to ask our clients and our staff if they'd agree with you.
In terms of client workload, I mean, obviously you've touched on your a spread of work, and I know you're involved with sort of real estate and sort of development. I suppose firstly, initially across your sector, I assume law, sort of workloads sort of maintained? But also, a second question would be in terms of your development work. Did you see sort of any dip, any uncertainty, or was it still just people moving forward and sort of proceeding with land acquisitions and those other schemes that you're involved with?
I think in terms of sort of the breadth of the work that Mills Reeve do, if I tackle the first part of that question,
yes.
there were practice areas that were really busy.
Yes.
You can imagine our employment teams incredibly busy, our insurance teams incredibly busy, and some specific advice with we do a lot of work for certain government sectors. So again, very busy, and our health and care and wellbeing sector is a big sector,
yes.
And therefore they were busy. Where there were some waning in terms of the speed of instructions and some people putting a pause on was largely within our M&A and some of our real estate practices. You know, everyone, you can't sort of miss the issues in terms of rental payments and the concessions made by the government towards certain tenants and the various lobbying that's been done by landlord groups. So although our investment team wasn't busy necessarily, our real estate investment team, in acquisitions which may have been paused, there was certainly a level of advice that was needed in terms of getting our clients through that period. So our landlord clients who were not receiving payments, or were receiving requests to have flexible payments, so to go to monthly. And then from our tenant clients who were having a really tough time and needed support and options about how they navigated it with their landlords. So I think it's fair to say that our practice being hedged meant that we were busy, but there were certainly pockets of inactivity, and those pockets of slowing down are certainly moving up. Yes. I don't think we're yet at full capacity in all areas that we were pre-March. But I think that's reflection. We were certainly getting that's reflection of the current slight pause that the government's put on because of the rise in the number of cases.
Yes.
In terms of my practice area, I'm really lucky because I do volume acquisitions as well as development. Our development practice pretty stable.
Okay.
I can see, which is great to see. But the nature of advice that I've been given may have slightly changed. So initially, if you're working on really big schemes, the beauty of these great big schemes is that master developers would describe them as recession proof, largely because they have to keep going. They're 20-year cycles, and therefore they're really, really good at adapting and reacting to changes in political, socio-economical sort of pressures. So it might be that they won't be doing as necessarily as many house builder transactions, but the infrastructure still needs to go in.
Yes.
Still need to be built. All of those things still need to happen. So that's kept us pretty busy. And the other area, I suppose, that you don't expect to see, other than in circumstances like this, is a huge amount of advice in terms of electronic signatures and powers of attorney. So lots of our clients have needed to talk to us about having flexibility in how they keep their own businesses running, which will mean they need to give their lawyers powers of attorney to execute certain documents. And you may or may not have seen that the land registry, it was a little slower in coming to the move over to electronic signatures, understandably, because open to fraud. They have now moved on in terms of accepting electronic signatures for dispositions of land, which historically they never would have accepted. So I think we're all having to move and adapt depending on what's happening.
Yeah, definitely.
And focusing on just moving and adapting and things, has this whole situation made sort of Mills and Reeve think slightly differently about business planning and where the future's going, and sort of, if you like, sort of aims and objectives for Mills and Reeve? Might they have changed, or dare I say, have they just gone into a drawer for another day?
That's perfectly timed question for us. We prior to the pandemic, we actually did a huge piece of research in order to inform our 2025 vision, which we want to aim to be leaders in client experience. And we went out to nearly 90 of our clients and our contacts and asked what they wanted from their law firm and the law firm of 2025. And what came back from that, and it came back just at the beginning of the pandemic, our analysis of it. In fact, this is a plug for it. Please do go and read our Building Resilience publication. It's all over LinkedIn. What came back from it is what lawyers need to be is resilient and adaptable, and what our clients what they need from us and what they want from us. Advice that is timely and can be smart advice. Relationships will still be key. We need to embrace innovation and technology, and that all of those things will inform how we deliver advice in the future. So having done that piece of research just in advance of COVID, all of those themes that came out, and we're very, it wasn't a quick survey, we're very grateful to our clients. It was an hour interview with these people who took part. All of those things have put us in a position and well placed to use that research to inform how we're planning going forward. So what we have done is we've taken those themes, and we've got sector committees who work on this, and we're trying to work out how we best react to what our clients tell us they want for 2025, but also to ensure we do it with one eye on delivering client excellence in terms of service, but reacting to what's happening in the pandemic. So something that we've done a lot, which I would say historically we'll have done face to face, is we write training programs alongside our client. So we see ourselves as strategic partners to our client. We don't assume that every client will want the same form of training. In fact, during COVID, each client that I'm responsible for have wanted something different from me in terms of their relationship management and the support I can provide them. And for some clients, it's been checking how their business is doing, a friendly ear on what I'm seeing, how we're reacting as a business to see if it's similar to them. For other clients, it's been around supporting them in terms of training for their teams. So for one of my clients, I work alongside their training principal, and we do a 6-month rolling training program, which I presented by Zoom, or I've got members of my team to present on updates, the planning legislation, the white paper, changes to the youth classes order. So different clients have needed different things, and for some of our clients, which I found a really interesting thing, is the great thing what our board did is we had daily briefing emails. They're slightly less now from our managing partner and senior partner each day. Something positive, something updating about what we're doing in the business, some sort of reflections on how we're running the business, how we're doing in our offices, and actually just sharing the types of things we're sharing with our staff, with our clients, meant that we're feeding back to each other on what we're doing on a daily basis. Just, it gives some connectivity. You do feel like a strategic partner. You don't feel like you are a lawyer being engaged for legal services. And I think our model, and actually the model that clients want, that's not what they want. They want a strategic partner.
They want,
So I hope that we're well equipped for the future, because and it was just timely that advice and all of that research landed just before and just remains prevalent as ever during the pandemic.
Yeah, and you've touched on the teams in order to deliver that. Your staff are obviously key to all that. I mean, in terms of looking after your staff, you've touched on previously all the the office. In terms of mental well-being, what did you have procedures that covered before, or has it escalated, or is it those additional staff welfare, looking after the team really?
We're very lucky actually, because we appointed last year a diversity, inclusion and wellbeing manager, because we were conscious that although we all do this, we needed someone to pull it all together and take responsibility for it. So her name is Natasha Broomfield-Reed. She's great, so shout out to Tash. And what we've done actually under her guidance and leadership, because someone does need to be responsible for it, is we have a number of things, and you have to tell me if I bore you on these. So got these great pop-ups that come. In fact, I've got one coming up on my other screen, which says, it encourages everyone to take a break, and it gives information about the facilities and the support we have available. So different support networks we have available. We've got wellbeing mentors that everyone has access to. Also, a really tough time for people during the pandemic is if they're coming back into the workplace. So we've got maternity mentors for people returning, and we have a full programme that's available to them. We've got a scheme of employee assistance, which was in place before, but I think our availability of it and us making it known more prolifically has increased. And that's a system where anyone within our business can contact third parties we give them the employee assistance telephone number. If there's anything personal or professional they're worried about, it's completely confidential. It doesn't get fed back to anyone at Mills Reeve. But we, as a group of partners, we provide that for our employees, a safe space for them outside of work or anything going on at home. We take pulse surveys regularly to check how everyone's going. So that all gets fed back to us.
You get a good response on your staff? Do you get a good response on your staff?
Oh yeah, they're great. I have to say, our staff are absolutely great. So generally, we have fantastic feedback on what type of workplace it is to work in. So they have been, I would say, even more diligent in responding, because that's the benefit, isn't it? You can only work to the data you've got, and it's reliable coming back. The other really lovely things I've enjoyed being part of is we've set up specific catch-ups for certain groups. So people who are parents, people who are carers, people who spend a lot of time on their own. Every other week there are available sort of Zoom-ins that they come in for an hour. Office catch-ups. I do team catch-ups once a week with all of my team. We've got team socials that we do. We also do things that sort of yoga classes. So lunchtime I can log on, I can get on with my yoga class, which is great. And that's done by a lady who is a trained yoga teacher within Mills Reeve. The one thing that has been difficult, I think it's fair to say, certainly for the Norwich office, and I know there are other offices who have been affected, is we've had some bereavements within our office. And I think that's true of a lot, because bereavements, whether they're COVID related or however they come about, leave a really big hole in the office. And what we've tried to do is ensure that there is support for people in those circumstances as well. So we have run bereavement sessions that people can feel free to come to. They don't need to have their cameras on. They can do it in a way they feel safe, secure, comfortable. So all of those things around that. But what I would say is there's nothing like human interaction. So the one thing that I think's made a big difference, all of that support happens if everyone has a supervisor within Mills Reeve or a mentor, depending on what area of practice you work in.
Yes.
So there's been those touch points alongside that. Because some people don't feel comfortable, do they, in wider groups talking, and they feel much more comfortable on a one-to-one.
On a one-to-one,
Yeah. Carina, you've touched on the human interaction, and I heard on the radio the other day that somebody was suggesting that the handshake is now officially dead as a result of coronavirus, because clearly we're not supposed to be doing things like that at the moment, are we? And I just really wondered what your comment on that really might be. What do you think?
Wow, that is a question I was not expecting.
Yeah.
So the handshake is, well, I'm really tactile. I'm into human interaction. So it might be dead for a short period of time, but I'd really like to think that human contact is not going to be ruled out. I'm one of those people that thinks blended working is a great thing to do, and keeping our distance is a great thing to do. But I think in the long term, I'm much more of a bit of each. I do think there's nothing like seeing someone in person, seeing the whites of their eyes. And as part of that, for me, it is about human contact. So I'd like to think it's not dead.
Not dead. No.
Yeah,
I'm definitely the same. It seems very strange for me to go and see my clients at the moment, and who I've known for many, many years in a lot of cases, and who I would normally always shake their hand, at the start and the finish, and to not do that at the present time, I find very odd. So as soon as we're allowed to do that again, I'm definitely going to grab a hand for sure if I can.
I'm with you.
So any other challenge other than not being able to sort of shake hands? Any other sort of challenge or major challenge you've sort of faced since March?
I think if I'm talking about me personally, the thing I find hardest is making sure my team's okay. The great thing about being in the office, when you are in the office, is you're able to read the mood of the team, to read the mood of individuals, to work out how people of all levels are developing. Because I'm sure the same in your practice area, junior lawyers and junior support staff, whatever area of the business they work in, they learn by osmosis, by watching people, by hearing them on the phone, by turning around saying, have you seen this before? Equally, if I hear someone on the phone, I can see, I can hear they've got a difficult conversation.
Yes.
I'm able to go to them and say, let's talk that through. Should we work out what might be a good plan of action?
Yeah.
And it's those things that you don't have sight of because you're in the four walls. So you don't know who's ringing them or what conversations they're having.
No.
It's just making sure as a business, for me, the hardest bit is to making sure that their development, the support and everything they need doesn't get missed. And working out how I can best make sure I'm supporting both them and my clients through what is just an unprecedented time, but it's here for a period, a significant period longer. And we've had to be really disciplined at getting people listening in on calls. So it might not even be something they're working on with me, but if it's something I know from their previous review they'd really be interested in, I get them in on that call and I explain to the client and my counterpart, I would really like to do this.
Okay.
And actually most we're humans, most people are completely open to that because we've all been there. We've all been at the beginning of our careers where we sat in on that meeting and thought, one day that's going to be me. So they need to be in on them. And as we had a more, so we when the announcement came that it was permissible to try and get people back to work, we did a huge piece of work across our offices on getting people back to work. And obviously we've taken 2 steps forward and 1 step slightly back. What I have found is because I'm in the office on a reduced basis, and I'm in the office to support development of juniors, people's well-being, I do find that those days, both for me and for those individuals, are much, much more rewarding.
Yes.
And I had a job where I'm working with a junior lawyer at the moment on getting a really complicated deal over the line, and it should happen today. And we've been in the office this week together, Tuesday to Thursday, and it was really great to see those little steps in person and hear them on the phone and be able to say to them, that was really good, well done on that. Whereas I wouldn't know they were happening if I wasn't sitting in my socially distanced bubble within 2 meters of them. So that has been a really big challenge for me because that's one of the most rewarding parts of my role.
Yes.
And I think we all question, don't we? Are we doing it right? The whole time.
The whole time.
You don't know.
I mean, in terms of sort of, you touched on back in the office, you obviously, as you say, when things were relaxed, you obviously implemented some changes. Have you then sort of reduced the numbers still further following the announcement 2 weeks ago, or what's the sort of position in terms of your office occupancy?
So on the phase 1, where there was the encouragement to go back into the offices, we had to undertake risk assessments in every single of our offices and work out what capacity we could accommodate in accordance with government guidance. So that happened, and then what we did is we prepared a fit for future guidance note. We've got both an external coronavirus hub that any you could access, any of our clients can access, and we've also got an internal one, which anyone within our business can click on. It's got all of the information about safely returning back to work. What that said is that we could safely get in approximately 40% of our workforce at one time across our portfolio. So we identified which desks we could do that at, in effect, to keep people safe and in compliance. And then we sort of delegated power to each of our teams to try and work out between our teams how they'd like to come back and utilise the space that they'd been allocated. That worked really well. For my team personally, I had one-to-one meetings with all of my teams via Zoom, and we got a lovely rota in place, and it was working for 2 weeks perfectly, and actually could really feel the morale rising. And obviously we call it Bojo, stole our mojo, when that announcement came out. You could foresee it coming, understandable, but it did mean that we had to reflect on if we could still do exactly the same. So I would call our pre-recent announcement the 2-step forward position. We're 1 step back now, so we're not saying to our staff that they cannot come in under any circumstances. Those who can't work from home, as has always been the case, still come into the office. For those who cannot work effectively at home are welcome to come into the office. And in addition, those who for their own career development require supervision and support, or for mental wellbeing issues need to come in, then of course they're welcome. And we do try and encourage, we've got a swathe of trainee lawyers that need to be developed. So we've got a system for them to come in at least 2 days a week and be supervised by their supervisors. So what I would say is we're one step back, but I think in a way that it still enables our business to develop and the people within our business to be developed and supported in the right way. And for those who don't feel comfortable coming in, that there is never, and there never has been, nor will be, any pressure on people to do so.
No.
But what was telling for me is one of the people I'm responsible for said, it has made a huge difference to my motivation every day.
Yes.
Having that ability to come in and interact with my team.
Yep.
So you've always got to keep that in mind. So I think we have made changes, but the changes are subtle and measured in accordance with what we need to do.
Yeah, interesting. And Carina, I've got to be careful how I phrase this, and I hope people who are watching this see where I'm coming from, really. But are there any particular sort of highlights to take away from all of this nasty business with coronavirus? Things that have happened, things that Mills Reeve put in place, that just have really come through as an absolute shining light that, will stay forevermore now, if you see what I mean?
I think the need to embrace technology has moved us on in 6 months, what would have taken 5 years potentially.
Yes.
And that's as a nation, not just as a business. And I think that will be embraced. I think our flexible working and our blended working schemes and systems, but personally I'm a huge advocate of it. I love working in the office, I like being with people, but I can see the real benefits to people's well-being, family life and flexibility in being able to do both. And I can see that's had a huge positive effect on our staff in the main. That's not to say that's on everyone, because for some people, they're on their own at home and it's very isolating, and that's why the blended flexibility plays to it. The thing that I have found probably most enlightening is how many more people will come to a Zoom meeting who might not come to a meeting in person. So actually,
really
interesting.
So if we've got a business that is all around the country, and actually getting all those people in place at the same time, if they are in different areas of the country, can be really challenging in terms of their own diary management. But you put it on Zoom, and actually distance, it's no barrier.
Yes, no
we
barrier,
can all get together, and that for me has been great. And the one area where I have seen real engagement, we've got these fantastic networks within Mills Reeve. One of them is our Reach network, which is race, ethnicity and cultural heritage. Next one is our Spectrum, our LGBT plus network, and the last one is our Ability network. And they create safe spaces and environments for both people who associate with those networks and allies. I'm a Spectrum ally, to join and support those initiatives so people can be their full self at work. We've done some great Zoom calls. So for Pride, by way of example, for Spectrum, we had equalities. We had hundreds of people signing up to those and coming to talk to us and bringing their cup of tea and hearing what people's own experiences were.
Yeah.
Struggled to get 100 people from all over the country in one place at one time. And this week, as part of our Black History Month for our Reach network, fantastic videos. On Monday, we've got an ability for all of us to sign up to go to one of their events, and again, it'll be a great attendance. So for me, that has been really positive, and I hope I know we will continue to do that to make it available to as many people as possible. And the other funky thing I need to tell you about is this key. So this key is our means of safely navigating our office. Turn up at our office, the first thing you do is you have to open the door.
Right, yes.
You have to get through the door. The next thing you have to do is you have to hold your camera up and log in with our QR code, where we sign a confirmation that we haven't had contact, symptoms, etc. with respect to COVID. Then we have to get through our barrier. So we have a special fob to get through our barrier. But to press, a little bit here, to press any lift buttons, to open any doors, the idea is all of us have this very cool key. I know it's an accessory for the winter, it turns out.
It is.
In order
Take ice off windscreens. I don't know.
Well, I haven't tried it on my windscreen
No,
yet. That is a good news. Maybe that's one for the future. The aim is to try for each of us to have as fewer touch points as possible.
Right.
And that's what this key is designed to do. So obviously this will be the Christmas present of choice for everyone.
Absolutely.
There you go. There you go.
Absolutely.
Look, seen first at Mills and Reeve.
Right.
I hope it's suitably branded, is it?
Well, obviously I need to keep that quiet.
Okay.
Because obviously we don't want people taking
No.
my key.
No, that's fair. You've highlighted some great initiatives. You're clearly looking after your staff with the sort of what you're doing in terms of looking after them well-being, all those different sort of support groups, support networks. I have no doubt your 2025 vision will be very easily achieved. It sounds like you're going from strength to strength. Thank you ever so much for joining us. It's been great to see you, and all the best for the future, and thanks very much.
Thanks,
Thank
Carina.
you.